Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sheer, your go-to AEC tech girl, and today we're diving deep into one of Revit's most essential, yet often misunderstood features, parameters. Whether you're an architect, engineer, or BIM manager, understanding parameters is crucial to creating intelligent, data-driven Revit models. From basic project parameters to powerful shared parameters, today I'm going to walk you through the different types of parameters, what they do, and how you can use them in schedules to unlock the full potential of your Revit projects. So, what exactly is a Revit parameter? Simply put, parameters are the pieces of information that define the properties of elements in your Revit model. They allow you to control and modify these elements, helping to maintain consistency and accuracy across your project. For example, parameters can define things like the height of a wall, the width of a door, or even the manufacturer's data for a light fixture. In Revit, parameters store essential data that you can use to automate schedules, drive design decisions, and maintain project standards. Let's dive in and I'll show you a little bit about parameters. Okay, so the first types of parameters I want to talk about, which might seem obvious, is instance versus type parameters. So let's head over to our floor plan, and I'm just in the Snowden sample architectural model in Revit 2025 here. So instance parameters enable you to modify the parameter values separately for every single instance, and they are the parameters that show up when you select an element and appear simply in your project browser. So if I were to select this door, for example, all of the parameters that are listed here that appear in my properties palette are instance parameters. So they can be modified for every instance of this door type. So you can see, for example, like the mark is an example of an instance parameter. Type parameters enable you to modify the parameter values which apply to all elements of that family type. So both these doors, for example, are the same type, and the type parameters are accessible when you select the Edit Type button in your Properties panel. So when I select Edit Type, all of these parameters listed here are my type parameters. So when I edit them, they will be applied to all elements of that type, as you can see here. Now that we've covered the basics of instance versus type parameters, let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's talk about system parameters versus project parameters versus shared parameters. So system parameters, or I like to call them built-in parameters, are all the parameters that you get in default Revit when you first start a project, and they are the parameters that can never be deleted out of the project. They're built into Revit. For example, some of those include the mark, that is a built-in parameter, or like the comments parameter, things that are built in and you cannot remove. Also, the level is another one of them. Next, let's talk about project parameters. These are specific to a project. You can add them to categories of elements, and they allow you to store information unique to the project you're working on. But they aren't available outside of the project, so they only live inside of one particular project. You can create these project parameters from your Manage tab and Project Parameters. So here are all the project parameters in this project. You can see that I can edit them, and I can add them to any amount of categories I want, and as well as they can be deleted from the project. Unlike system/built-in parameters, project parameters can be added and removed, but are project specific. Shared parameters, on the other hand, are the heavy hitters. Shared parameters are custom parameters that you can use across multiple projects. They live outside your Revit model in a shared parameter text file, which allow you to use them in different projects and maintain consistency across your firm. These shared parameters also allow you to communicate with other files in the project, such as families or annotations. Shared parameters allow you to add a parameter to a tag that tags an element in your model. Shared parameters can be accessed through the Manage Shared Parameters tab. And this is where you can manage that shared parameter text file. You can create different parameter groups, add as many parameters as you want to them, and then add those as project parameters or family parameters to either the project or the different families in your project. Speaking of family parameters, let's talk about family parameters. So family parameters are created in the family editor mode. So you can select any family and edit it, and these are parameters added in the family editor mode. So I can go to my family types and add a number of parameters here. Now, I could just add them as a family parameter. However, if I add them just as a family parameter, they cannot be tagged in the project and cannot be quantified in the project. However, when I do create a family parameter, I could also add a shared parameter into the family, and as we learned before, these are used to communicate between other families and between the project, and then can be tagged or quantified. The last type of parameter that I want to talk about is global parameters. They can also be accessed through the Manage tab. As you can see here, the global parameters. They can be used to quantify and sort and filter things in the project. They can report values with reporting parameters, and they can control and measure and be associated to objects. I know a lot of people who use them to manage materials across all the different families, and that way you just have one place where you're going to be modifying that value, which is in the global parameters, that you can then associate to other parameters in the project. So here I have a lot of different parameters, and you might notice that if you select an element, some of the parameters have the symbols to the right of them. You can click on it and see that you can associate a global parameter to it, and then I can select a global parameter to associate it to. Now that we talked about parameters as a whole, let's look at how to utilize parameters in schedules. So when I go to create a schedule and create the different fields, you might notice that there's actually a couple buttons here that we can utilize for parameters. One is a calculated value, and the other is a combined value. So we can create a calculated value. For example, maybe I wanted the door area, so I can formulate that through selecting the width parameter times the height parameter. And there I can create a calculated value in my schedule. However, this only lives in the schedule. I could also create a combined value. So if I was looking to combine multiple values into a new value, maybe I wanted the level plus the mark. I can select the level, I can select the mark, I can combine as many as I want. I can add separators or dividers, prefixes and suffixes, and again, add that as a column in my schedule. However, this again only lives in the schedule. And that's a wrap. Revit parameters might seem a bit complex at first, but once you get the hang of them, they're an incredibly powerful tool for managing your model's data, creating efficient schedules, and maintaining project standards. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other tips or tricks for managing parameters, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. As always, stay empowered, stay inspired, and always challenge what is possible.